department, what we do is we receive files from the designer or the agency, and we prepare them for printing downstairs. We take the files, we check them, we convert what we need to convert, RGB to CMYK, any kind of adjustment that we would have to make. We would prepare the files, we write PostScript files. The RIP software that we use then turns that into PDFs. The PDFs are then used to make plates, proofs, anything that we would need to produce. The files that we tend to receive are Creative Suite from Adobe. We do receive files from other software, but not on a regular basis. So we would highly recommend anybody use Creative Suite software. Pretty much the standard as far as what we receive and do anything with. The machinery in here, we have our Epson proofers. That's what we would provide our clients with proofs of their files. So after we would rip the files and turn them into PDFs, we would produce a high resolution proof from that on the Epson proofers. If the artwork has foil or emboss or die lines or anything like that, we would produce an overlay on the clear material and laminate that to the proofs so that the client can see exactly what's going to be put on top of their printed piece. On some jobs we would produce color lasers. If it's a large quantity, they're not concerned about color, just content. We would produce color lasers to be able to save some money and produce a less expensive proof for them. Any questions at this point? We're good?
They're like this in my class. Never ask questions. They know everything already.
So the only other thing we really do in this room has to do with data. And for data for us is mailing addresses, where we sort our mailing, so we pre-sort for the post office. We do our variable copy. We've got some digital presses downstairs that we'll see towards the end of the tour. The digital presses are swapping digital images in, so color images coming and going page per page throughout the run. As we do a mailing for a lot of properties in town, the properties may have table players and slot players. They may have poker players. They may have people who have a tendency to dine, or people who have a tendency to game, or people that have a tendency to drink or to club. Well, your invite, and the way the world is evolving, your invite is becoming more and more personalized to you as individuals, based a customized piece for you based on their list, their matrix of where they want the offers to flow and who gets what at what tier, and what type of backgrounds everyone has for their gaming limits or their tier. So it's very personalized.
And in general, the way that works is, again, it's usually created in InDesign, and the variable parts are usually layers or text variable type of swap outs from the data. But again, most everything is prepared in InDesign with Illustrator or Photoshop swaps.
Any questions? Okay, that's probably it for this room.
We'll go into the other room. A little bit noisier in this room. There's machinery running most of the time. What this room is, we take the files, as I said, that generate the PDFs. We make plates in here, which are used to put on press downstairs and produce the final piece. We have two trendsetters, which are the machines that produce the plates. They're laser. They burn images onto the plates themselves. We then take it and run it through these two processors. It operates very similar to like film. It's the same type of process. The processors remove image from it, and then the presses then use that image that has been produced to absorb ink and produce a piece downstairs. We have the two processors, the two the two plate makers, and then we have various other equipment. This proofer here it's a two-sided proof. It produces a two-sided piece so that the customer can see, we can cut it out, we can show exactly how it's going on onto the plate. This would be a whole plate that would go downstairs, and then this would represent the other side of the plates. We can then, this one has a die cut, so we can then cut this out, fold it up, produce a mock-up for the customer to then be able to see how it's going to be the final piece. Tracy has a plate. I was going to say, just don't slice my fingers off. This is a plate for our big presses downstairs. It's approximately 40 by 28 inches, a little bit bigger than that, but this is one color, which happens to be cyan. We'll produce for a normal 4-color piece, it would produce a cyan, magenta, yellow, and black plate that then is used downstairs. If there are any spot colors, then we would have additional plates for each of the spot colors. Any questions about this room?
What's this room called?
This would be our imposition plating department. Again, we would take what we would produce in the pre-press department would be one file, usually one front, one back. Then those are imposed into a large sheet that then would go and get produced into plates. Any other question? So this is our press room. This is where we do our litho printing. So as far as presses, we've got a variety of presses, different manufacturers, different color configurations, different types of ink for different printing applications. So depending on the special effect or economics that a customer is looking for, we can pick and choose which press to go to. They all do something a little bit different than the other one. The first one is a 4-color Mitsubishi. It's a 2/2 perfector, so it can print 4 colors on one side or 2 colors on each side of the sheet at the same time. As the sheet passes through the press, it also has an aqueous coater. So if we're doing a 2/2, it'll do that in one pass. If I'm doing a 4/4, I'd have to do it in one pass, flip the sheet over, and run it back through the press again. The next press is a 5-color Komori. It's a straight press, so it's a 5-color plus a coater. This press here is a straight press, so it doesn't perfect. It only prints on one side at a time. So again, to flip it, I'd have to flip the sheet over, run it back through to print the other side. Looks like the 8-color press is running. We'll take a look at it. Also a 28 by 40 presses. All the ones we've looked at so far have that same size. The difference with this press, those presses use conventional or oil-based ink. This is a UV press. We run UV ink all the time. So instead of an oil base, it's a polymer or a plastic-based ink. It also cures the ink immediately. So as it goes through the press, you can't see it, but there are small cavities where we've got UV lights running across the sheets. Those UV lights cure the ink instantly. So from one sheet to, or one color to the next, as it's running, the ink is dried immediately. It also has a coater in the middle and a coater at the end. So I can run 8 colors on one side of the sheet, turn it back around and flip it back over, or I can run 4, put a coating on it. Now on the coaters, I can do spot or flood. We can also do aqueous or UV coating depending on the effect the customer is looking for. In the middle of the press also has a perfecting unit, so I can flip the sheet over and print the other side of the sheet in one pass, just like the first press. We'll take a look at, I guess down here, some of the different products that this press can print because it's UV. We do a lot of commodity work where we're doing just general commercial printing,
These are card carriers. This is actually for Starbucks. You see things like this in the grocery store. Your gift cards are inside of them. We do a lot for a local printer there. A lot of rewards programs for the properties. I thought I had some plastics in here. We do get some specialty work. We don't do a lot of it, but another nice thing about the UV press, I can print on plastic. This is just really dusty. But we can print on plastics and it cures immediately. So that UV ink isn't wet, doesn't smear, it cures immediately as we go ahead and put it down. Also, one of the things we really like about the UV ink, when I go to foil on top of it, we'll see the letterpress department here shortly, but the foil adheres very well to the UV ink. It has no oil in it, so it's a lot easier for the foil to stick without having the issue. The foil's transferred with heat and with pressure, and we'll see that when we get to the letterpress department. I'm showing you this piece. It's part of a project we'll take a look at the end of the tour. We've got some finished products, so you might see some of this project throughout the plant as we're going. We just finished it. This is a New Year's Eve invite for one of the properties here in town. So this job, he's printing one side at a time, but he's printing work in turn. So basically, it's a front and a back of the same image. Comes through the press like this. He prints one side of it, puts it back through the press, flips it over, and then with the same sheets, he's still got the same plates on there. He's got a front and a back. Now it's backing itself up. A little bit different. It saves the customer 4 plates. It saves us a make ready. It saves us a little bit of work. It's more economical for the customer. Even though this press can perfect, what we look at is the length of run. A lot of times the length of run isn't adequate to engage the perfector. To engage it and disengage it, our house rule is usually about 5,000–7,000 sheets of paper before we want to invest the time in doing that. Smaller runs like this is probably faster and easier, more economical for him to print one side and put it back through the press on the short runs. Another thing that's happening over here, can you scan a sheet, Chris? He'll go ahead and scan a sheet here in a minute. What he's got, a device that's going to go across the sheet and read the color bar at the bottom. So it's a spectrophotometer. It's going across the sheet, and basically it's just a scanner that's reading these bars to give him different information. It's going to tell him the density of the ink, how much ink he has, how much magenta he has here, versus here, versus here, versus here, versus here, all the way across the sheet, as well as the yellow, the black, and the cyan.
What's that called again?
Well, this is called a color bar. So the color bar, it has a variety of uses. The majority of what we use it for is the density of ink. What that does, when he scans it, it gives a numerical value to the density of ink, or how much ink is on that sheet. Like his magenta, he probably has a range of 126 to 133.
So that's called a spectrophotometer.
Well, this is a spectrophotometer. It has a variety of uses. The first use we're talking about right now is really density. A little more water, if you get a little more ink, or the air conditioning turns on, a little more air movement, a temperature change, anything will adjust that balance, will affect that balance, because anything that's going to make water evaporate will make that change. So it's constantly changing. This just gives you a numerical value where it can see the change before the human eye can. Most people see a change in probably 4 or 5 points on the densitometer before most humans can see it. Most printers can probably see it after 3, maybe 2 points away. But a densitometer can watch every point. So again, even before a human can see it, it tells you there's an issue. It's also got a process that's called closed loop color. So once we've established that baseline and we're running the job and we've accepted it, the customer has given us that, we stick to it. As we're running, he'll scan one sheet, he'll scan the next sheet. As the press sees there is a difference that needs to be made, he can actually, it'll tell him you need to adjust the yellow in this area and the blue in this area to get back to your baseline. It'll ask him, do you want me to make the changes or do you want to make the changes? A lot of times there may be a flaw, whether it's a smudge or a fingerprint or something in the color bar. He may override it. Most pressmen don't like to use the closed loop color. They want to make the change. They want the computer to tell them what change needs to be made, but they want to be the one to make the change so that they're in control of their press. The automation is there where they don't have to. One of the problems though, you get a scratch or a hickey, you get one flaw on the color bar, the technology doesn't know the difference. So it'll chase a problem and really there isn't a problem. You've got a hickey or you've got a piece of lint on your plate. That's the problem. Well, a human can see that and go, I'm not going to do that. I know what the problem is. We can detect the difference and do something about it. This is why. Most customers do not see the difference. Again, the amount of fluctuation that we're talking about in the color is so minimal, most people don't see it because we're just giving you one of these coupons, but the fact is when he's trying to line all of them up, it's off. There's a problem or a potential problem. So the more constant we can keep the humidity, it comes from the Northwest and the upper Midwest is where most of our paper comes from. A lot of paper does come from overseas these days, so depending on the designer, we pick a house sheet and that's our choice. That sheet is domestic. So we choose a domestic sheet. However, customers will dictate to us what brand and what style of paper they want to use. So the designers are generally the ones picking that out. They're picking it based on the surface, based on the quality of product that they're looking for, based on economics. But as they do that, I may be forced into foreign sheets. If they're speccing a foreign sheet, we'll order the foreign sheet and run it. This here is part of our cutting department. And really what we would have is coming off of the presses, they'll have a load that may be signature of a book that just needs to get folded. It may be these are notepads for the Venetian, so this is a notepad that's multiple up. I'll need to cut it down into strips so that I can turn it into pads for the hotel rooms. So depending on the job, sometimes we're trimming it and it's going to folding. This one actually has already had the chip inserted into it. So these will cut down into strips. I'll pad them, cut them into singles. As far as single pads, probably 4 up, come back to cutting, cut them down to 1 up to deliver to the property. We've got a program set up with store them and ship them to them box by box. So instead of a customer having to order, like when they order these notepads from us, they might be ordering 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 notepads. This is a small sheet of paper for this cutter, but what he's doing, he's winding the sheet, he'll put it in the jogger, get the sheets all jogged up nice and square, he'll pull the air out of it, but he's also weighing the sheet. So as he's doing this, he's got a scale that's weighing each piece of paper he puts on there. So right now he's got 917 sheets of paper on the scale. So it's a scale so sensitive it'll weigh a piece of paper. So he's using that really as a counter. Now he's going to get to what looks to be 1,000. They'll cut in lifts of 1,000. That's just another way for us throughout manufacturing to count our product to make sure we're never short. So we are constantly counting the product at every stage of the game to make sure we're still okay. Every stage uses a little bit of make ready, a little bit of waste, and we calculate all that in the beginning. So in our estimate, in our production planning, our press print's a little bit extra for cutting, cutting cuts a little bit extra for letterpress or for folding. We know how much waste we use downstream. They're producing enough product to where I'm not short at the end of it. Now if you look, extremely strong hydraulic, and it will literally cut through a 2x4 if you put a 2x4 up there. Just a very sharp blade. He's got a couple of safeties so he doesn't get hurt. He's got 2 buttons here he has to trigger with his left and right hand to start the cycle. He's also got those gray arms that are coming out. Those are photo eyes that are going across. If he was to lean in, if I was to throw something in, it would stop the blade immediately. So quite a bit of safety has been added to these over the years. Is a 4-pager on text, so a thinner paperweight. and then a 4-page cover or a cardstock on the outside. Well, by variable, the outside has the mailing address, so this is a mailing job, so it's already in sequence for the mail. But the inside, actually I thought it was a 4-pager, actually there's 8 pages inside. Well, the inside just actually have Lori's rewards here. We use virtually no ink. Mostly what we're doing over here is foiling, embossing, die cutting, perforating, scoring, doing the specialty stuff. Ron's got a table set for us up down there. We'll go ahead and take a look at some of the different tools and some of the different products that we produce. But for us, for machines, I've got a 28 by 40 Browse. Now that machine, this larger machine here, is one of our newest ones. It will run the full-size press sheet, the 28 by 40, and it does no printing. You see, a little bit older, a couple of cylinder presses. They're twins, very quick to set up. For us, a very good portion of our jobs are 2,000, 5,000 sheets of paper. So for us, that's an hour or two on the press. Some of them are even into the hundreds. So as we get into those jobs, I need a press that's a quick make-ready, very fast make-ready. And some Kluges here where we do foiling and embossing for the most part. Let me take a look at what he's doing and grab a sheet. Score. So he's applying a score here and a score here in the book. But the pages are already pre-collated. Same thing as a variable job. If he loses one page, he has to take out the whole book. It runs so well. He just stands in the middle and watches both of them run. If something goes wrong, he can go over and address that.
You can see here the chase going back and forth. He's actually running without a chase right now. The purpose of that is he's reversing the load of what was already ran. You can look in there, you can see that chase moving back and forth. That chase is actually die cutting the sheet as it's coming through. What it's doing is it's scoring in 2 places. See the 2 score rules? There and there. And then it's also perfing so that the mail house in back where you're going to go to next can put in coupons or rewards or whatever to advertise whatever this particular promotional piece is for in the 70s for ink printing. So they're still around and they're still in production. We get a lot of good use out of these machines. We do maintenance, we keep them oiled, and they run forever. And spread it across the numbering machine, and then it'll put that number on the sheet down here with an ink number. Now we do forms like this. We can do raffle tickets. We do a lot of raffle tickets. We can do them in places where you have one here. I can do 4 up, I can do 6 up, I can do 16 up. You see what it's doing? It's picking up the sheet, putting it in the press, and then dropping it over there. One. This top edge is very sharp. It's a sharp edge. Same with all these. Anything that has rubber next to it has a sharp edge.
This is all customized, right? Depending on the style.
Depending on what the customer wants to do. This one was fine.
This one is made in
to make the pattern for whatever we happen to be doing. It's just like this envelope here that I just cut on the press. It used that cutting rule that's in this die. That's a sharp blade right there. If you look on this press, you can see the backing, which we call matrix, and it conforms to the back side of that score so that when that score, see there? So back here, this is heated. There's heaters over here. You can hear them clicking. It's about 275 degrees. This is heated. I cannot hold my hand on that. That's hot. Okay? And the 13.